Good evening, viewers. Good evening. My name is Mr. Metaphysics, and you are welcome to this edition of The State of Emergency. In this episode, I want to talk about the false narrative going on between Africans, that Africans from Africa, then African Americans, that is African Americans, there's the blacks of America. Recently, there is a nomenclature that Africans have used to describe African American, and it's the word called Akata. Somehow along the line, some people with nefarious ideas or nefarious intention has tagged this word a bad word or a derogatory word that Africans use to describe African Americans. But is it really true? Is that really the issue? I want to, since I am somebody from Nigeria and also from the Igbo extraction, I totally understand the word Akata and how it is used in context. And I feel that I owe the public that duty to explain the meaning of this word and its application, the way it's being used. You see, in July 6, 1967, a civil war broke out in Nigeria between the Biafrans and the Biafrans and the Igbos from southeast and the rest of Nigeria. So that's the Biafran War. It lasted from July 6th, 1967 till January 15th, 1970. During this war, there was a genocide that was committed against the Biafrans, which are the Igbos. But most appalling in this genocide was the massacre that took place in a place called Asaba on the 5th of October 1967. So basically, while the Igbos, the Southeasterners in Nigeria, were fighting the Nigerian army in a state called Delta State, the Igbos of Delta State decided to stay away from the fight, or decided to say they don't want to participate, or even though a lot of people from that side were still participating in this war, but in the city of Asaba, there were a lot of men that were not in the war, either because they don't want to be in the war for whatever reason, or because of the forest area in that part of Igbo land. A lot of men ran over to that side of Delta State to hide because of the bushes, the forest, or whatever reason. But when Nigerian army got word that a lot of men are in this city of Asaba, they marched into the city. And I'm talking about civilians, I'm not talking about soldiers. So when these men came into the city, the men of Asaba came out, not just the men, the people of Asaba came out to welcome the Nigerian army and declare their neutrality. They don't want war. They don't want to fight the army. They welcome the army. They love the Nigerian army. And they declare their solidarity for Nigeria. But Nigeria being what it is, and Nigerian army being what it is, surrounded these men that came to welcome them, this whole crowd that came to welcome them, not just men, the people of the city of Asaba. The Nigerian army surrounded them, just the crowd, a peaceful crowd that came to welcome them, surrounded them, and in the midst of the surrounding them, they started separating the women from the men, the women and children from the men. When the women saw what was going on, some of the women brought out their underwears. There's something they call simi that looks like a skirt. And then they made their sons to wear that skirt to separate their sons. Some other women took their blouses and gave it to their husband, to their children to wear. They used their wrapper because Igbo women usually move with two wrappers. They take one of their wrapper and wrap the men. They start disguising their men to separate them from the crowd. But the Nigerian army saw what was going on and ordered the men back into the crowd. So they separated the women from the men, and then they surrounded the men and shot them in cold blood. They killed all the men in cold blood, just like that, unprovoked. So most of these women became husbandless. They had no husband. some of them lost their sons, some of them lost their brothers. So these women were very bitter, were very sad and angry through the war and even after the war. So after the war, these women who have lost their husband became landowners, and they became landlords of the buildings that their husbands have left behind. And so they started renting their houses to make money. Some of them who are educated started working in the civil service back after the war. So these women, because of the difficulty they've passed through in the war, and because they are now head of the household, they were very tough and they were very strong when they deal with men. So, men being men, we want to take advantage of women, especially when women are single or don't have husband. We want to take advantage of them. But these women from Delta State were very tough on the men. They traveled, mind you, later after the war, they traveled to other cities in Nigeria, especially in the Igbo city, most especially Onitsha and Enugu. So there, in dealing with other men, the men gave them the word akata because they are strong and tough. The word akata means strong and tough for oneself. I am strong and tough for myself, or the word actualization of toughness and strength for one's own self. That's the word akata. So that's the original word of akata, and it referred to women, because in the Nigerian context or in Igbo context, a woman is supposed to be a soft person or a soft thing. The actual word for woman, why, in Igbo language means a big baby, a baby that is big. That Igbo men used to make fun with women, that the women are big baby. If you carry her, she's heavy on your hand, and you can't drop her. If you drop her, you're stuck on the place because it's a baby. You can't leave the baby on the floor. So a woman is a big baby. So, but these women that have lost their husband are now called akata, strong and tough for themselves. They are almost like equal to a man. You can't treat them anyhow. So when men want to take advantage of them, they realize they are tough, and they give them the name akata. So when other man wants to go and take advantage of that woman, people will say, be careful of that woman. She's not an ordinary woman. She is an akata. She is a strong and tough woman. So that became known in Nigeria for such women. Now, after the war, in the 80s, when Nigerians started traveling, and Igbo people also started traveling to the United States, they met African-American women. And being African-American women, being beautiful, being free in the heart, being very welcoming and loving and loyal, of course, African men, especially Nigerian men and Igbo men, rushed to also take advantage of African-American women. But in the process, they realize that these women are tough women. They're strong. They're strong-willed. They know their rights. They're educated. You can deal with them anyhow. They are not like babies that were women babies, women whom we call babies, the one we know in Africa. The African-American woman is not like that. You can deceive her with any simple trick, and you can lord anything over her. So when they realize that these women are like that, they are educated, they began to call them the same word they used for their tough women in Africa. They call them akata. Mind you, most of those women that were landlords in Africa that lost their husband during the war from Asaba, most of those women were educated, and they worked in the civil service. So when men from Nigeria came to this country, and such women that were educated, tough, strong-willed, know their rights, they call them the word akata. So that's how that word came into African language in America. But now, along the line, while dealing with those women that now we call akata, we started also dealing with their children. That we call the children of akata. At the time, both the women and men and children were all called akata. And that's how the word Akata became a nomenclature to make a to make a distinction between an African from Africa and African American from America. Because you have no way to make a distinction. When you look at an African and an African American, we don't have no distinction. We don't have no name, no word in our language to make a difference. We are both black people. So we just say black people. We are both black people. So we don't know a way to make a distinction. So that's why this word Akata evolved and we started using it. The word is not originally derogatory. That's what I want to say. Even though it is not a value for a woman to be strong, in Igbo language, it's not a value to refer to a woman as strong and powerful and all that. It's more a value to refer to a woman as a baby. In the morality, in the way the people look at life. But on the other hand, it's not derogatory. Like some people are trying to make it out that Africans, deliberately use a bad word to refer to other African Americans. But that is not true. That could not be so far from the truth. Because we too from Africa see ourselves as African, see ourselves as black people. And in fact, many of us, I being somebody that grew up in the 80s and 90s, we always looked up to African American models. They became the yardstick. I grew up when Mike Tyson was in a ring. And, when we go to cut our hair, we want to make a hairstyle of Mike Tyson. Evander Holyfield, and all the stars, Coolio. We love these people. That those were our role model growing up. So how could one now say that Africans, will have a void between a division between African and African Americans? This is something that an enemy is sowing between us. It's a seed of discord. Some people do not want to see African and African American together, doing things together. Some people don't want to see that, especially African Americans with Nigerians. That is why they go ahead of Nigerians with bad labels, bad words, bad associations, trying to paint Nigerians bad to keep Nigerians, most especially, away from reuniting with their brothers and sisters who are in America. So the whole point of this video, my dear viewers, is to let us know that really there are more that unite us as black people, most especially Africans and African Americans, and even more especially West Africans, Nigerians with African Americans. There is so much that unites us together, and we should look at that unity rather than the difference. The difference is mostly artificial. Most African Americans migrated from the West Africa. When people are looking at 23andMe, and they always try to avoid Nigeria. Everybody want to be from Ghana, Togo, Benin, Sierra Leone or wherever. But everybody avoid Nigeria, the place where those two rivers met, very fertile crescents, where civilizations sprang from, the place that have the most concentration of black people in the world. And yet, the black people from sub-Saharan Africa wants to deny that they didn't come from there in America. It's so funny to me because every other immigrant group, people from Ireland, people from China, people from Netherlands, they always travel back. They always have something to say of where they come from. It's only us that tried to run away from our roots. And I knew that this is not just by accident, it is by design. Some people have brainwashed us through the school system, through the church system, through the media, through all the systems, that Africans and African Americans should never unite. That's what's going on. And I think it is a state of emergency. We have to unlock our brain, unlock the brainwash that they've given to us. We have to reprogram ourselves. We have to learn the truth for what it is. Learn the truth by ourselves. Do our own research. Because it is only when we have the knowledge of how things are in the world that we will be able to act in the right way to create something good. So, my dear viewers, this is my message for us today. Please subscribe to this channel and help us to spread this message. Each one teach one, and then the whole village will be on the same page. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. May God bless you. Have a good day.